We've got the best junior college in the state of Texas.
And a big enrollment, too,
big enrollment, 12,000. And we've got good leadership there. They are so nimble in how they've been able to deliver things. One of the top needs that we found in industry through that survey was forklift drivers.
Because you can get a certification for forklift.
You know, that doesn't sound sexy unless you need a forklift driver.
No, I was like, I can drive a forklift.
Yeah, so we show this to Tyler Junior College. They team up with a local company and they create a forklift driving program. And they get recognized nationally by Toyota. Now they're developing a program where they'll be able to train forklift technicians, and Toyota dealers from all over the country send their folks here to get trained at TJC. That started with a survey of just listening to, you know, our local companies. And now that forklift driving class is full. Every class is pretty much full.
Welcome to another episode of East Texas Unfiltered. I'm your host, J. Chad Parker. Today I've got a guest that we've heard his name referenced in several podcasts. His name is Scott Martinez. He's kind of the Wizard of Oz, if you will, the man behind the curtain, the man that helps this community keep retaining the jobs that we have and keep looking for additional expansion for not only our tax base, but for employment and salaries for the people that live here. We care about this city on this show, and here's someone who's very interesting, who's going to tell us about what he does for us. Scott, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. What a treat to be here with the J. Chad Parker.
Now, I don't know about that, Scott, but what I do know is that we used to hear about city managers and these specialties that would develop within a city, but now you seem to be a specialty that's developed outside the city government in these nonprofits. Certified economic developer. Tell us what that is.
I am. Actually, I'm a one of probably less than 10% of economic development practitioners nationally have this designation. So you've got to be practicing in economic development for at least 5 years and sit for a 2-day exam. The pass rate is under 40%. It's a lower pass rate than the bar exam.
Yeah, that's for sure. But what I've heard is a lot of times people say, you know, we're lucky to have Scott here in Tyler, and it sounds like setting apart what your experience and how effective you are, your qualifications say that as well, because there's not many of you in the country.
Yeah, and I've been blessed. I went to the University of Southern Mississippi and actually got a master's degree, an academic degree that I spent 2 years getting in economic development. So I finished that on a Friday. I moved to Conroe, Texas with everything I had in the back of the smallest U-Haul trailer I could pull with a 1990 Ford Bronco 2 that was leaking transmission fluid, make my way to Conroe with $250 in my pocket and the first month's rent paid, making a job that Chad, I hit the jackpot. I was making $35,000 a year.
What year was that?
That was 1999.
1999. And you were doing what?
I got a job with the Greater Conroe Economic Development Council, which was part of the chamber in Conroe, and to do economic development. So I did existing industry and research for the organization. So I was kind of at the bottom of the rung, if you will, doing that. So I was there in that community 5 years. I learned a lot. I had a great mentor with a gentleman named Tom Stinson, who was kind of a legend in economic development in Texas. Was there 5 years, and then I get the opportunity, get a call one day from a group in Round Rock, Texas, wanting me to develop their economic development program. You know, at that time, Dell had located there. The Ryan family, Nolan Ryan and Reed Ryan, had located the Round Rock Express minor league ballpark there. A lot of positive momentum there, so I went there. So typically in economic development, you see people move with election cycles. Because
Really?
A lot of these organizations are funded by a half-cent sales tax for economic development. So you get a new city council seated at government, and then they'll have a different idea. The mayor will have a different idea of what economic development should be. And, they're always better than the previous mayor. They'll have the mindset of the previous city council. Well, that guy was, we can do better, and they'll get rid of the economic development guy and go on about it. But, going back to Conroe, you have a lot of things that happen in your life. My background, they think with a last name like Martinez, okay, this guy's from Texas.
Right.
He's bilingual. He's Roman Catholic. I'm none of those things.
Right. And your accent does not sound like
I barely speak English.
Well,
I almost failed, Spanish at Ole Miss when I was in college. And, and I grew up Baptist. So,
All right, you're Baptist, but where are you from?
I'm from Laurel, Mississippi, where tomorrow's yesterday.
Right. I mean, I can't believe you're from Laurel, Mississippi. You know that. One time I was in a lawsuit with a guy, and I think he was from Laurel. Chris, he ran for Senate against
Chris McDaniel.
Chris McDaniel. Yeah. He and I spent 2.5 years together on a case.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. And he ran against Thad Cochran, but I'll never forget. He had an associate. Her name was April Ladner, and they were from Laurel, Mississippi.
Yeah. So my history and the history of my last name is my father was a migrant farm worker from Karnes City, Texas, who met my mother in the late 1950s on a potato farm in South Alabama. They get married, have 7 kids. I'm the 7th of that litter. He dies when I'm 18 months old in a trucking accident as a truck driver. My mom remarries, has 3 more kids. So I never was exposed to any of that culture, language, or anything related to that side of my family.
None of the Hispanic culture at all?
No.
I mean,
I didn't realize I was a minority until I moved to Texas.
I mean, that's funny. People come up to you, hey, Scott, would you like to get some Mexican food or something? You're like, what?
No, I mean, I like Mexican food, but it's just a different.
You speak Spanish? They'd probably ask you that all the time.
Absolutely. And what's interesting is you get, telemarketers in Spanish, and I don't know which button to push to opt out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's great that you do speak Spanish, but Mississippi is a Baptist state, isn't it?
It's a very Baptist state, very Protestant. But, I grew up very blue collar. No one in my family had ever went to college. So after high school, I ended up in junior college for a year, dropped out. I go to work in a factory making masonite fiberboard. Doing,
sounds like asbestos or something to me.
Yeah. I worked a shift, At 22 years old, I'm sitting there sorting boards, and I'm like, I think there's probably a better way. So
that's when you went back to college.
Yeah, I thought back, and I was like, okay, let's think about, I did well on my ACT, enough to get a scholarship to the local junior college. And I look at a map. No one in my family had ever gone to college. Some of them thought I was crazy quitting this great job and this, preferred employer in Laurel, Mississippi and going to college. So I did some research and I looked at a map. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to get out of Laurel, Mississippi. So there are 3 universities in the state of Mississippi.
Hattiesburg?
I lived in Laurel. Hattiesburg was 30 minutes away. Mississippi State was about 2.5 hours away. And the farthest away was Ole Miss. I knew nothing about the football team. I knew nothing about the history of the university, knew nothing about anything because that's just not something that was topical in my family growing up because college just wasn't part of the discussion. So I ended up going up there as a freshman, 22 years old, and getting a fraternity because I could buy beer.
Right.
And have 4.
Ole Miss, you're part of the Ole Miss.
Yeah.
The Grove.
Yeah, the Grove, 4 years there, had a great time. It really changed the trajectory of my life. And I was teed up to go to law school and didn't go to law school, obviously. And, next thing I know, I always want to go to law school.
You're in Conroe, Texas.
Yeah. And then I take an elective class, my last semester at Ole Miss, and I discovered this thing called economic development. I took a trip to Tupelo, Mississippi with my professor and saw how Tupelo had been successful. I was like, that's really what I want to do.
That's where Elvis is from, right?
Elvis, yeah, the king.
Tupelo?
The king. Yeah, he left the building before I got there. He left Earth.
I mean, you had no interest in economic development
until then.
Was this the last semester?
Last semester at Ole Miss.
And is that what led to some application to get the job in Conroe?
No, that led to an application because, I had a degree in print journalism. And, think about that, the job market for that today, had I stuck with it. Yeah. So I started looking at a map again. At that time, there was 2 graduate programs in economic development in the country. One was at Georgia Tech in Atlanta, which was out of my means. And the other, think about that map again, was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, the University of Southern Mississippi. So I went there for 2 years. The first time I got on an airplane was to go to Boston to a conference that I volunteered to work at so I could go to it for free. And then that kind of opened a different world because I got to study abroad between my first and second year in Australia and New Zealand. I got 4 hours graduate credit. And then I went to Cuba for spring break, and then I went to Conroe.
It's funny.
And then, by the way, year 3 in Conroe, I ended up in the emergency room at Conroe Regional Medical Center with what they thought was pneumonia. And they do blood work on me, and they tell me I'm in full-blown kidney failure.
Really?
So a year and a half on dialysis. I did it 4 hours, 3 times a week after work, I get a kidney transplant.
Did you get a live donor or a deceased donor?
It was a deceased donor. It was an 18-year-old that had been in a car accident in the Houston area.
I just did a show on a woman last week. Her name is Sandra Bailey Crow, and the show was about she's on dialysis, and she went to high school with me.
Mm-hmm.
She's my age, and we were trying to get her a live donor. It's funny you say that. What caused your kidney failure to the point that you needed a kidney transplant?
They really don't know. It could have been a staph infection as a kid. It could have been a genetic anomaly. It could have been a lot of things, but they never were able to pinpoint it. But I got a cadaver donor from an 18-year-old who was in a car accident, as I referenced earlier. And I had a good antigen match, which is important.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get a kidney transplant. I get it on a Sunday morning, walk out on a Thursday.
I guess.
And it'll be 24 years in May.
I was about to ask you that. How old is that kidney that's been with you?
It'll be 24 years in May. I've had this kidney longer than the person that was born with it.
Right. And do they anticipate this kidney from a deceased donor, since he was a young person, that this would last you your entire life?
Well, the way it's going now is, it's still performing very well.
Don't you have to take some kind of anti-rejection medication?
I do.
Just
I've read twice a day.
Yeah, I've read about that. You have to do that so your body doesn't detect this foreign entity or organ in itself and start to reject it.
Yeah, but I've taken it without any problems. The only problem I had was they gave me high doses of prednisone after the transplant,
Mm-hmm.
and with about 10% of the population that take prednisone, it causes something called avascular necrosis, which is a breakdown of the blood circulation in major joints. So I've had both my hips replaced.
I was about to say, they call that AVN. It's associated with that, but also, alcoholics and people where their circulation is poor, it'll cause their hips to go kaput, so to speak. Well, now, hey, new kidney, 2 hips. I mean, you're ready to go. You're good as new.
Yeah, and Charlie Heaton implanted lens in my eyes last year so now I can see.
Well, we need you healthy and clear-minded and with clear vision to do a good job for us here at the TEDC.
No, it's been good. So I follow Tom Mullins, who I've known professionally over 20 years, and come in to the organization, and great opportunity in Tyler. But one of the first things I recognized was we didn't have real estate product that really aligned with the marketplace. We were seeing, prospects that needed at least 40 acres of property with utilities to be able to locate
to
here.
Come and build a facility that would then have people there to be employed.
If you don't have product, you don't have a project. It's that simple.
What year did you come?
Came in 2000.
Okay. And you left Round Rock to come here?
I led a 14 parish regional group in North Louisiana. So I had, for 8 years prior to coming here, I led that group, and we covered 11,000 square miles. I had an office and a staff in Monroe, Louisiana, and Shreveport, Louisiana, and as far south as Natchitoches. And population of about 835,000. I led that group, which is a large regional group, for 8 years. And then I knew before I turned 50, I wanted to come back to Texas and do local economic development. So I get a call one day from a search firm asking me if I'm interested in Tyler, and here I am.
You think that was Tyler and maybe Tom Mullins and them trying to prepare for the future when he might retire or not be in the job?
Well, Tom was retiring, and they were looking for Tom's retirement, and Tom was very much engaged with getting a search firm and through that process of finding his replacement.
All right, so that's good. That's what leads you there. Is we all know Tom Mullins if we've lived here most of our life, and we remember his contributions, and kind of he laid the groundwork for what you and the Economic Development Council have done since.
Absolutely, we have there's a group of people in 1988. Dub Ryder, Witt's dad, Herb Bowie. Mm-hmm. Taylor Burns was real involved with it. That they just realized that Tyler needed to be more insulated from the ups and downs of the oil and gas business.
Right, because everybody's affected. Like if you rely on someone to buy a product or a service, and all the money, all the air comes out of the balloon, then it doesn't matter what you're in, your business is down, right?
I think every bank failed in the 80s in Tyler with the exception of one.
Yeah.
Being Southside Bank.
Southside is the only one. I mean, all of the savings and loans way back when went away. I remember that as a kid. I knew people that worked, friends of my dad that worked there, some of which got in trouble, some of which went to the penitentiary. I mean, it was a lot of things going on back then.
So, they put together the Tyler Economic Development Council.
1989.
1989 is when they hired Tom from Rochester, Minnesota. And Tom thought he would be here 2 or 3 years and was here 30. Well, he's still here. He told me, when he retired, I asked if he was going back to Minnesota. He said, no, he was just now thawed out. So, of course, he's still active and has a consulting business and see him everywhere in the community still, which is good to see.
Well, so you get here in 2000 and what role do you assume? Do you assume the CEO position that you have today when you get here?
Yeah, I'm president CEO. Tom retired. I take over that position. And then they restructure the relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. So Tom spent 70% of his time with the Economic Development Council and 30% with the Chamber of Commerce. I spend 90% of my time with the Economic Development Council and 10% with the Chamber. And Henry Bell is the president of the Chamber.
Right. And I realize, or at least I think I do, the Chamber and the Economic Development Council, both of those are meant to train, improve conditions for employment, and right. I mean,
yeah, the Chamber's business advocacy, does a lot of business to business, and we have a very healthy, perhaps one of the strongest chambers in the state with 2,500 members, which is kind of hard to fathom.
Is that a lot?
That puts us probably in the top 5 of all chambers in the state of Texas as far as membership.
And so, what would you tell the listeners that your organization does differently, say, than the work of the chamber?
Of course, I work for both.
Right. I mean, you got a little 10%. Pretend like you're not in it. What are they doing?
So I'm doing business growth. I'm trying to recruit companies in here. I'm working with companies to help them expand.
No, you as TEDC doing that.
TEDC is doing that.
What are they doing?
The Chamber is doing a lot of business to business, a lot of advocacy with the government relations and some of those things. And they're doing, it's more internally community focused with a business community that's already here.
All right. And what? And do they interact with the community that's already here in a way that provides them resources, training, or something to make them better, expand?
Absolutely. We have put my chamber hat on.
Yeah, your 10% hat right now.
My 10% hat on, which wouldn't cover this big, only a portion of this big head.
It's okay.
But a lot of things. They do trainings. They do a lot of workshops. Got a very strong technology committee. I mean, just looks at everything, provides symposiums on everything from in IT to, we have a big energy summit that's coming up.
Well, that'll be interesting. But, let me ask you about this, because I had Nancy Rangel on the Rangel, if I pronounced it correctly. She'll probably
get it right.
She'll probably watch this and text me. But, she leads the Hispanic Business Alliance, which also has a close relationship with the chamber.
Absolutely.
And internally, representing biz, I would assume that, the Hispanic community might need help with regulations, laws, forming LLCs or corporation. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of things, I guess, that the chamber would probably help make people, better companies, mm-hmm. safer workers, and that's their contribution, as I've kind of tried to understand it. Am I close?
You are.
I mean, am I close to that?
I mean, we've got several committees at the chamber that cover topical things like healthcare, government relations. We look at things related to transportation and mobility, obviously. The regulatory environment, which, in Texas, our regulatory environment is pretty business friendly.
Right.
We
it is.
Keep it that way.
We do. And that's why, I saw where Exxon, I thought, was trying to leave Connecticut or something and bring their home office here, or Chevron. I'm not sure which one it was, because the business-friendly policies up there were not near like they are in Texas.
Well, and you saw it with Tesla.
Right.
They're Texas now. They're seeing with lots of
we're glad to have them. That's what I was saying earlier is that, even as a lawyer, even as a personal injury lawyer, if you love your city and you care about your state, you want the best for us, because it benefits so many other people for us to be prosperous.
Absolutely. When people ask me what I do with the Economic Development Council, I tell them I'm in the paycheck business. Yeah. And they look at me, they're like, "You're in the paycheck business?
You're a payday loan man.
What are you talking about? You're in the paycheck business." If we're successful in meeting our mission as an organization, companies are going to hire people. or they're going to keep people employed here, and those people are going to get a paycheck where they can put food on their table, clothe their kids, and tithe at the church.
Yeah.
And which one of those are you against?
Well, right. None. I mean, people can do whatever they want with their money, but most of the time they have to do something with it, and that benefits other companies or businesses, small business or large, that are here working.
Absolutely. Think about our organization and the companies we work with. Highland Dairy on April 1st will have a ribbon cutting for a $110 million milk processing facility on East Irwin, in a part of town that needs investment.
Right. That's kind of like the old dairy,
right in front of the original Don Wise.
Right. And then that's where Herb Bowie and the butcher and the, what was that? Remember, there was a packing plant back in the day.
It was Tyler Packing, which Herb Bowie had.
Right.
The Tip Top Hams.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they spent $110 million here. They'll process 1 million gallons of milk a week.
Did we, that is, now I'm with TEDC, did we help them at all?
Absolutely. We help them with their tax abatement.
All right. And we'll get to that, because that's one of the tools I understand to be in the toolbox of the TEDC and or the city in partnership.
Absolutely. Highland Dairy, they could have really gone to closer to Sulphur Springs. That's where the cows are. Most of the dairy farms are around Sulphur Springs. But they're so community focused. They're so Tyler centric now, and they made that investment here. And they certainly had a choice, because this wasn't an addition to their current dairy.
It wasn't.
This was ground up, new, right beside it. But make no mistake, that is a new facility that could have gone anywhere.
And, I guess if there weren't certain incentives available to them, they could just make a business decision to say, well, we're just going to build this someplace else.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Isn't that one of the things, not to cut you off, but retention is a word used in some of your literature.
Absolutely. I think it's the most important thing we do. We created a position that does nothing but work with our local companies
to try to retain
and make sure our companies are getting serviced well. If there's an issue with a local company, we want to make sure we're there to help, answer questions, connect them to the right person, whether they're in government, it may be another business they need a connection with. So I hired a young lady named Tara Ellis.
Is she on staff?
She's on staff. She's our director of workforce and industry initiatives. We were very intentional when we brought her on board. I needed someone with relationships with local industry and companies. She worked with Rocky Gill, who we know, at Express Personnel. So she was one of his top performers. So she had the Rolodex, if people remember what a Rolodex is.
Well, because she was placing people in employment all over the city.
Absolutely, all over the region. And so she had all the relationships. She knew if someone asked, okay, how can I get this particular occupation? She has background because she's placed people.
So how does she help you?
It's not so much
her ear to the community.
But not so much her helping me. It's helping companies here be successful and remain successful.
How does that? I know that's part of the mission, of course. Right? I mean, and that's why this nonprofit is formed. In case people don't know, this is a nonprofit as opposed to connected to the city. Am I right?
Correct. We get funding from the city. We get funding from Smith County. Less than, I think, 11% of our total budget comes from public sources.
All right. But so you are private in the sense that you're not a government entity, but your funding comes primarily from the city of Tyler?
No, less than 11% of our total funding comes from the city and the county and all governmental entities.
All right. And so your budget is private donors, members?
Private donors, investments. Investments, by investments, I mean real estate, because we don't have free land. We have to buy the land, we've got to buy the land. We've got debt on the land, commercial paper. We've got we've got debt to service. And sometimes when we sell land, we try to get a margin to put back into it. And we're able to get that margin because I've got public sector partners that can fund things that a developer would typically do. For instance, we bought 270 acres from the Weisenbecker family north of town. The city's funding a sewer line to that property. That's $1 million project. that enhances the value of that property, but it also is going to generate tax base and utility customers for the city. So it's a very symbiotic relationship.
It's kind of like the John Soules water line, isn't it?
Yeah, and that'll actually service that property I just referenced. That's a 16-inch water line to John Soules Foods, but that was funded through ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act money. That was money
the county
and the city got tranches of that money,
and they combined it
to help mitigate from the effects of COVID.
And they built it or paid for it.
The city did,
right? But I mean, as I understand it, the water cost outside the city limits where John Soules is more than it is within the city.
Well, it will be, because they're not in the city, so there's a premium if you get city utilities and you don't live in the city and pay that property tax in the city. But for John Soules, they needed reliable water to sustain those 1,000 jobs or whatever they have up there.
But it also seems to be a revenue source for the city of Tyler in the future.
Absolutely. Not just to that customer at John Soules Foods.
To the people that add on along the way.
But also, think about all the people working there and what they add into the city. When you look at the city of Tyler's budget, it's very sales tax centric. The majority of its funding, the revenue from the city of Tyler, comes from sales tax because our property tax rate's so low.
You talking about like the 1% general fund plus the 0.5 half cent?
Yeah. If you look at the total city budget, it's a sales tax dominant revenue side of the ledger from a revenue perspective. So you think about all those people working at John Soules Foods. They're probably coming into Tyler, and those cash registers are going to the city of Tyler, providing sales tax to the city. So it's not just that utility customer, it's all those ancillary benefits from those employees at these companies.
Plus, once the water line's constructed, as I understood it, John Soules, whatever water they use, they would continue to pay the city for the rest of the time that was open out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and also that water line it's not a single user water line.
Right, it's going to be anything that develops up between John Soules and back into the city.
It will allow the city to grow north. Have that utility piece.
Now, were you guys, that is the Economic Development Council, were y'all in any way involved in that project to get the water line out there?
We knew all about it, but that was a city-driven initiative, and this, kudos to the city for doing that.
Is there consultation sometimes with the city, the mayor, the city council in your office, like, hey, somebody wants us to do this. We're thinking about what do you think? Do you have a project going adjacent? Do you have any consultation?
We talk all the time. I mean, the city and the county, Tyler Junior College, UT Tyler, we're all joined at the hip. I mean, we talk all the time about what's going on. I can say this with all honesty. There's no real silos between those entities.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll take Valencia Hotel Group.
Yeah, and that's one of my things that I was wanting to talk to you about, because I knew that to be a project that you guys were kind of involved in. The city wanted to.
Yeah. So Valencia Hotel Group is a well-known hotelier. If you've been to Bryan College Station, you've seen the George.
Successful.
The George, very successful. Valencia Riverwalk. They've got a great property on Santana Row out in San Jose.
They're going to make it if they build here.
Yeah. They're a known entity. So this isn't a startup. These guys know how to run hotels. So this started, the whole dialogue with the Valencia Hotel Group started with basically communication that Don Warren made to him. I don't remember if it was an email or a phone call, but Don reached out to him.
He was on this podcast, and he said it was a big part of his mission for his mayorship to have a 4-star hotel downtown Tyler. And he just called him up, he said, hey, this is the mayor in Tyler. And that he ended up talking to somebody, and it kind of got going from there.
That's true. It snowballed from there. And we were looking at, they were looking at several different things. We looked at the conference center. We looked at a different type of product that they do called a court project. You've seen, there's one up in Lubbock. There's one in Las Colinas. That's more of a retro type, motel type feel product that they do that's very successful. And we couldn't put together, the real estate couldn't be put together for that. That would work for them downtown. So ultimately they ended up tearing down the Regions Regions lobby, putting the hotel there. And, Russell Patterson and that group are involved with it. So
how is that project coming along?
That's been, collaboration's a word that's used a lot, and a lot of times it's just, I think, not authentically used.
Right. People just kind of
just
trying
throw it out
to
there.
give each other credit. Yeah, it was a great collaboration.
Sounds great.
Yeah, right.
It was good good thing we got good health care. People pat themselves on the back on a lot of these things. So, with that one, it was all hands on deck. So you talked about tax abatements earlier.
Right.
With Chapter 312 of Local Government Code dictates how counties can use and cities can use tax abatements, abate taxes, property taxes. So our local policy in Tyler, Smith County, and Tyler Junior College really geared it toward manufacturing facilities. It didn't open it up to projects like a hotel. So the local policy was changed with the city of Tyler, Smith County, and Tyler Junior College to allow a hotel as one of the acceptable uses of our local tax abatement policy. So all three policies were changed for us to do a tax abatement with Valencia Hotel Group.
And did that have to happen for this to be possible?
It did.
I mean, it's just a natural evolution. That sales tax thing there was a A and now there's a B, and there was an expansion there on what the money could be used for, right?
Yeah, but this is just related to the property tax. But every unanimous on city council, unanimous with the TJC board, had one person vote against it among all three entities.
And was there a reason put forth for the no vote?
Yeah, it was that it wouldn't impact rural residents. I thought it was kind of a rural versus urban thing.
Kind of like, hey, it's no benefit to my constituents out in the rural area?
Which is totally flawed, by the way. That's not based in reality.
Yeah, right.
It's not based in reality. Think about this. You've got $50 million. $50 million. That's a lot of money even for J. Chad Parker.
Some people living out there might work and get some of it.
$50 million. That's the spend down, private money going into this hotel project. So at the end of the day, at the appraisal district, when all the dust settles, it'll probably be of an assessed valuation of around $20 million. That's what we're thinking.
Right, just the value of the property.
Yeah, that they'll get taxed on. So the tax abatement is 50% of that for 10 years. So year one, even with a tax abatement, you're adding $10 million of value to the tax rolls. Now, if I'm living out there...
That you would not have.
That you would not have, $10 million added even with the tax abatement. And if you're living out there in rural Smith County...
Your property taxes are lower?
Think about this. You're adding $10 million to the pot, that...
Right. I mean, it's an argument over money for some reason that why can't we just take free money and say this is a good idea?
And for me, it's not even a political argument. It's a mathematical argument.
I mean, that to me, I've never understood.
Even with my Mississippi public school education, I can put that together.
We just forego a project that they only agree to do because we'll forego and abate the taxes, and they build it and we benefit from the minute it's finished.
Yeah, $10 million on the tax rolls day one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have someone on the show or even hear somebody argue how that is not beneficial to a city or a county.
We've seen this whole, people are with the whole downtown, all the work downtown.
I mean, it's painful for some businesses, right?
It's painful for some, and I sympathize.
But growth has to happen and hurt sometimes.
Absolutely. It's like my friend of mine used to tell me, everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die,
That's a good one.
And I don't mean that in
I
a
know
flippant way.
I know you don't, but I mean, it is true.
There's some pain involved with it, but Smith County voters voted on that courthouse.
Yeah, they did. It took a long time to get them there.
And if you may have voted against it, but guess what? The majority of the people that showed up at the polls voted for it. It's like, elected officials. Oh, I didn't vote for them. I don't like them. Well, guess what? They're still elected. Same thing with the courthouse. You deal with it.
People just complain sometimes,
they
don't even really have. They're not educated or haven't educated themselves on it.
And then you look at the downtown infrastructure, and some of that infrastructure downtown was almost a century old.
Right.
It had reached the end of its useful cycle.
Water.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, in our city, it looks like they kind of got caught trying to catch up on maintenance and then forced into certain remediation.
Look, I'll just call the baby ugly. That downtown square hadn't been taken care of, with the exception of that one side that Garnet and Tim Brookshire and Andy and those guys were involved with. The rest, and what Rick Eltoft was kind of the pioneer down there. I mean, you look at the other side, and the rest of it wasn't what we wanted people to see.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be really nice, and it's going to make downtown a destination for people in and outside the city.
And I'll contend that's going to permeate way beyond downtown.
Right.
Because, when I bring people to town, they want to see your whole community. Downtown's part of the community. And think about if I'm bringing a company, let's just say they're from Plano or Frisco, and they want to tour the community. They want to see downtown. They want to see where little Johnny and Jane are going to go to public schools. Think about how Tyler Independent School District looks now with their facilities.
Compared to when I went?
Yeah, 10 or 15 years ago. I bring people here now and they see our schools, specifically that Career and Technology Center on Earl Campbell Parkway, and it benchmarks better than anywhere they'll go. And for me, it's easy to show them that this community is committed to public education because those improvements and those fiscal plans were done with bond elections.
And that means, approval of the population.
There's a public commitment there.
Right. Because otherwise, if they said, hey, we don't really care or we think they're good enough, they would fail.
Yeah. And we've got Tyler Junior College with a bond election in May. And I support it, by the way, because workforce training is one of the biggest things I deal with. Even beyond incentives, people want to know what their workforce is going to look like. Are they going to be trained? Are there training facilities to get their employees, up to speed with what's happening?
You mentioned this, and I want to put an emphasis on it. You said when I bring people to town, what people need to realize is the people you bring to town are the people that potentially could relocate a company here, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, not just people looking around Tyler to say that's a nice community.
More importantly, they could hire your neighbor. They could hire your kid one day. They could hire someone in your Sunday school class or someone you coach Little League baseball with.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we said earlier. Look, the more jobs here, the more prosperity, the better it is. You would think it's for everybody.
And, we've got, like I said, 160 members. Why do people join? Because they want their community to grow. And part of it is having people with money in their pocket, getting back to what I said about, being in the paycheck business. If Yellowwood, Amazon, Train, John Souls Foods, Tyler Pipe, when they hire someone, guess what the option is? They probably have health,
They've got a lot of things that they wouldn't have.
They've got health insurance. If you're a hospital, you want people in that emergency room and getting admitted with health insurance.
Yeah, I mean, unless they're after me, because I recover more for them than they do get for health insurance because of the...
that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a statute, property tax, hospital lien. Hey, Chris, put up that statistic that shows how little money we actually get here and how much private versus other places. Mm-hmm. This slide we're looking at, it's going to be a lot better in the show, but it looks like Tyler has so little money to work with the TEDC. Why is that?
That's because we're funded by private dollars predominantly. Less than, I think, 11 or 12% of our money comes from public sources. And with that comes, with basically contract for services. So for the city, we'll manage their tax abatements and help them with incentives. There's specific things we do for the city of Tyler and for Smith County. It's not just, okay, we're going to write you a check and go away. So the tax abatements that are active, we'll make a report every year to the taxing entities to see how they perform, because I tell people, in God we trust and others we audit.
Yeah.
So when someone says they want a tax abatement, they say, okay, we're going to put this much money, we're going to spend this much money and hire this many people. We verify that over the life of that contract.
Right. If they fall short, I've seen things where y'all maybe reduce the abatement or look at it and make sure there weren't circumstances like COVID. You can't it can't be black and white.
It can't be draconian. You've got to understand the situation and the environment.
Longview gets a lot of money. Where do they get that money from?
From the half-cent sales tax.
Okay. And it goes directly to their own Longview Economic Development Council?
Corporation. They're set up as economic development corporations, and their boards are most often appointed by the city council of those communities. Same thing with the others you see there. And that's allowed them over time to do things like build industrial parks. Kilgore has one of the finest industrial parks in this part of the world in Synergy Park over there. But they funded that through that half-cent sales tax. Tyler didn't have that. And, again, one of the things I saw here was we weren't going to be successful unless we had real estate product that aligned with the marketplace. We were going to be a great business retention program because the property we had on Earl Campbell Parkway, and we're happy to have it. It was not conducive to industrial projects, and
Right.
the part like our community hasn't grown that way in that part of town. You look at the nicer things that are happening. That's the nicest roadway in the city of Tyler. You're not going to put a heavy manufacturing facility over there. It doesn't work.
Right.
The development costs are too much with the topography. The rest of the community around it has grown differently than an industrial user would need.
Well, what do you think? I mean, why is it? Is it fair to say that, Longview and these other cities are supporting economic development more than we are by the structures that fund these organizations?
I would probably communicate it differently.
Well, and
I've got 160 people that groups, companies, individuals that voluntarily write us a check every year. They don't have to do it. There's no multi-year commitments or anything like that. And that shows buy-in for someone to write a minimum of $3,000 every year to keep our lights on. Where with them, it's mailbox money.
Right. But I mean, I'm assuming with that additional funding that they can get involved in other projects that further economic development that we can't do.
Well, on some things, they've got the capital to do things like do industrial parks, cash grants, and some of those things. But also look at it like, I look at it through the lens of what we're selling compared to what they're selling. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but, it's different. Our product's different. I think our product they're nice communities, but our product's better.
Right. And our product is, the more metropolitan, area that's been created here in the city of Tyler, and they call it Tyler, MSA?
Yeah. I mean, we've got a 4-year university here, public university. There's one in Longview. It's private. Cost of attendance is much different. We've got the best junior college in the state of Texas.
Right.
The one with the largest endowment of any junior college in the state of Texas.
And a big enrollment, too.
Big enrollment, 12,000.
Yeah, that's a huge enrollment for a junior college, I would think.
It is, and we've got good leadership there. They are so nimble in how they've been able to deliver things. I'll give you an example. 4 years ago, we went through a strategic planning process, and one of the elements of that strategic plan was an industry survey. One of the top needs that we found in industry through that survey was forklift drivers.
Because you can get a certification for forklift.
That doesn't sound sexy unless you need a forklift driver.
No, I was like, I can drive a forklift,
so we show this to Tyler Junior College. They team up with a local company, what's called Lift Truck Services, now it's LTS Material Handling, and they create a forklift driving program to do the certification. They go to Indianapolis a few months ago, and they get recognized nationally by Toyota during Toyota Week. Now they're developing a program where they'll be able to train forklift technicians, and Toyota dealers from all over the country can send their folks here to get trained at TJC. That started with a survey of just listening to, our local companies. And now that forklift driving class is full. Every class is pretty much full.
I mean, I'm thinking, Brookshire's Warehouse and things like that.
Target,
all these forklift drivers were, people have never driven even an ATV in their life. They can't just jump on a forklift, I would assume.
That's something I'd never thought about it.
Yeah, no, but it's good that the communication is so, is so open and free between, the school, the council, industry, so that, like you said, that they're very nimble.
Very nimble. Same thing with UT Tyler. I've got great confidence in Julie Phillies. She's just remarkable.
She's from here, isn't she?
She's from here. She's from Overton, and just a remarkable story in herself, but just her leadership is she's just a doer.
They've got a business law program out there now.
Yeah, she's just a doer.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, don't get hurt twice. Go out there and say something to the kids. I mean, they do have a business law program, a pre-law, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
But you guys, I mean,
but you are funding. But here,
I'm like where's the money coming?
Here's the untold story with that funding model. If you were to do a chart and show those communities and their property tax rate, you will see Tyler again be the lowest. If you look at our property tax in the city of Tyler, the municipal portion is less than 25 cents per $100 evaluation. You look at Longview, they're over twice that. They're like 57 cents.
Really?
because you think about how they use the half-cent sales tax here in Tyler. They use it to do things like Earl Campbell Parkway. They use it to do things like Grande. They use it for all these other things that would typically be paid for by property taxes or bonded indebtedness that's serviced through property taxes. So to say, when you look at our funding, there's an offset when you think about the low property tax within the city of Tyler. That's the other part of the story. But looking, myopically at the EDC and our funding, where do we get the money? So back in, I guess, the early 90s, I think it was 1992, there was a group that had been around since the 50s called the Tyler Industrial Development Corporation. Herb Bowie way back was even part of that. And they bought land on what's now the West Loop. And in 1992, 3 years after our founding, they gave all those assets, which was like $1.5 million in cash in the bank, and all the property on what's now the West Loop to the Economic Development Council. Over time, the Economic Development Council here in Tyler sold that property to users like Juicy's Hamburger, Hollywood Movie Theater, Austin Bank, and, we're able to sell a lot of that real estate and put money in the bank and live off that and those investments over time. And that's sustained us for 30 years. But what was happening is all of our good real estate was pretty much gone. And most of the stuff we got was done for commercial uses. So we had to get more real estate. So
have you gotten more real estate?
Yeah, we bought almost 700 acres in the last 3 years.
Okay. So, and that would be,
you don't know how we did it?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. How do you get more real estate? With what money do you spend?
It's called debt. You
can borrow?
It's called debt. If you know the right banker.
I guess that's right.
Everything's regulated. So here's how we bought that first 400 and
what do you call acres. That? The
Interstate Commerce Park.
420 acres?
412.
412.
So we don't own it. We have a company. One of my friends and longtime supporter of the EDC, Mark Watley, calls me and says, I've got a company considering East Texas.
They got nowhere to go.
Got nowhere to go. You put together a list of sites. What would be the best site for this company? And I sent him 3 or 4. He knew it. Mark knows I think, grain of dirt here in Smith County. He's probably sold it 3 times. But I sent him to a piece of property. It was 412 acres on the interstate. And they liked it. The only issue was, Chad, it didn't have a road. It didn't have water. It didn't have sanitary sewer. But other than that, it was a great piece of property. And by the way, the county road that went to it, County Road 336, had more potholes than pavement.
So this was going to take help from the county.
Yeah. Nathaniel Moran was the county judge, and he and I talked ad nauseum from the time I got here until he went to Congress about the need for industrial property. And so Mark and I were at my office, and we called Nathaniel. Nathaniel walks over from the courthouse annex, and we kind of lay out what we need. He's like, well, if y'all can get this property and this project done, we'll commit ARPA money to build a county road through it to make this project work. And keep in mind, we didn't own the property. So then we negotiate for the property and realize we need $4.2 million to buy this property. Chad, over 30 years, we built up $5 million in a wealth management account at Southside Bank. That's all the money we had. And it was going to take over $6 million, for the whole thing to buy it. So what do? So we convened our board and just started trying to solve the problem. So we had a client, Great Southern Wood Preserving, Yellowwood. We were working with them and had generated a good relationship with them. We get them to commit to buying 150 acres and do a concurrent closing of that 412 acres. That leaves us with $4.2 million to show up with at closing to get this property done and trigger the county to build the road. So,
because they agreed to if you bought the property.
Yeah. And Nathaniel was on our board, so he knew our financial situation. So
had Nathaniel got the county commissioners on board ahead of time?
Yeah. I mean, Commissioner, Terry Phillips, his precinct, he was supportive. He was actually a really good ally on the court when he was on there. And so Scott Herod now. But, $4.2 million. We had $5 million. So we liquidate $2.1 million from the wealth management account. We take an interest-only loan with a 36-month term at prime minus a point, with the remainder of the wealth management account and the real estate as collateral, as an abundance of caution, because there's no comps on property like this. We're off to the races. And then about the same time, I start working with a company based in Seattle, Amazon, to put them up there in a new property.
Yeah.
And then they don't like it for some reason. TDC had bought 119 acres in 1999 for $100,000 on County Road 334. So I move them down there and I sell them property at that site. Enough, I'd get enough money for that to pay off that loan.
So is that where the Amazon?
Yeah, we sold them that property.
That distribution or
last mile center. And then the two roads that were so bad I was telling you about, the county's bond package had those roads in it, but it was far down the queue. So the county, being good partners, moved it up the queue and redid those roads with bond money.
Yeah, I mean, that's
how we did it. We just solved we just went to work.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't sound like what people think of as government. You always hear people complain like, government needs to run like a business, but it sounds like what you just described is running like a business.
Business and government are inherently different. That's such a misstatement. You want government to be fiscally responsible and solvent and good stewards of your money, but government exists to provide a service. That service could be running a jail, building roads, educating your kids, or making sure you have safe water to drink. Business is in business strictly to make profit.
That's right.
And return to shareholder. Those two are they have two totally inherently different missions.
But y'all found a way for both of those
absolutely
to work together.
And by the way, Yellowwood didn't get an incentive, didn't get a tax abatement.
They got nothing.
Amazon didn't get a tax abatement, and Amazon paid for a traffic signal.
Did they ask for it?
No.
I mean, there's this notion that if we help someone with a tax abatement, then everybody's going to ask for a tax abatement. Is that happening?
No. I mean, you don't lead with it. If someone
asks, hey, would you like a tax abatement?
It's like giving out chiclets in Mexico. You don't do that,
Yeah.
It's a horrible example. But, you just don't do that. You don't lead with it. You determine what's going to make the deal work. How can you make the deal work that's going to be amenable to the taxpayer, to the company, and try to create that fair balance. But don't lead with it.
Where's the Tyler Industrial Park and Business Park, the 100 acres? Where is that?
The 100 acres, that is now along our old Campbell, and we changed the name of that. You'll see some new signs going up. It's going to be called Champions Commons, I think. We've got new signage, and that we switched that. That's not an industrial park anymore. That's going to be mixed use, and you'll see multifamily and those type things go there.
For the reasons you said a minute ago. Yeah. What about the Bioscience Park, 120 acres?
Bioscience Park, that is now called the Catalyst Industrial Park, and that is where we put Amazon.
All right. So that just kind of gives me some bearings. Okay. We've got Yellowwood over at the Tyler Interstate Park. We've got Amazon at the Bioscience Park, right?
Yeah, and then we've got a new business park we bought from the Weisenbecker family. We bought 280 plus acres from the Weisenbecker family. That's called Prosperity Park.
And where is that?
That's just north of Loop 323. The western boundary is Highway 14. The eastern boundary is Highway 271. It's set straddle with that.
Now, this is all acreage owned by the TED.
By the Economic Development Council.
And we didn't have any of this 700 acres how many years ago?
3.
All right. So just so the people listening wondering, is it worth it? Are they effective? Are they doing a good job? And there's 700 acres of industrial park that you said, when you came to town, we were having a hard time attracting business because we didn't have.
And we did it with private capital.
Which for the taxpayer means none of your money was used or risked.
Absolutely. The road that was done, the 412 acres, that was ARPA money, American Rescue Plan Act money that was given.
Right. It was given to a lot of municipalities.
You spend it or you send it back.
And
that didn't come from the county's budget on roads. That could only be used for certain things.
Have you caught any pushback on any of these purchases of any of these industrial parks?
Well, it's hard to,
I mean, that's what I keep wondering. Who's criticizing this?
And when people call me griping and,
what do they say? Does anybody call
here's what happens, Chad. I've got a list. I've got a list in my drawer. The 160 people that write checks. If their name's not on the list,
you don't answer the phone?
That determines how long the conversation is.
Right, because
that sounds horrible, but
that's who you work for.
That's who I work for.
Right. I mean,
I don't want to, it's people that are involved and care that help pay, you keep us in business.
Because, I mean, a lot of your members who donate at least $3,000, religiously, annually, every year or more, they're not necessarily given to get anything. They're just trying to create a positive climate.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Where other people benefit.
Absolutely. And, it makes the community better if people are working. I mean, that's just the reality.
When they don't have to cut the budgets at the city or the county?
You want the pie bigger, fund those services. But it's just, the city of Tyler, it's been a great relationship. Tyler Junior College, it's almost, I'm just being very honest. It's just open and easy here to do things because people work together, they talk to each other, and they're just reasonable.
I think people that live here or have lived here, they really love and care about Tyler. And I think people get excited, like I was interested in talking to you. It's like when we hear about progress, we know it's good for somebody, right? And so we want it to happen, and we're happy to hear about it.
And it's interesting. I could announce $1 billion project, Chad. You know what the response on Facebook's going to be?
Like,
when are we getting Costco?
That Costco thing keeps coming up, doesn't it?
Yeah. And Costco will be here when Costco can make more money here than anywhere else they can deploy capital.
It's pretty much a straight business decision.
It's a business decision. All these are business decisions.
We finally got a Bass Pro Shop. Everybody was clamoring for that. But that was a perfect fit, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. They took over a lot of the Gander Mountain leases, and it fits here, and it's a good thing. And
more people go to that than they did Gander Mountain, it looks like, in the parking lot.
Absolutely. We're getting a second Academy store.
Oh, where's that going to go?
That's going to go on the West Loop.
The West Loop is finally catching on.
The Brookshire's here is going to be much different. I'm sure you've heard.
Yeah, on the West Loop?
Yeah. It's going to have Stanley's barbecue in it.
Yeah, I think I did hear that from Nick.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Nick on the show next week. Pence's,
Yeah, Nick's great. And Heather that works for him is even better.
Oh, I know. She's coming too. I'm very close with her. Golly, Heather, she's either lying or I'm a great guy. She makes me feel so good every time I see her.
She makes everyone feel great.
I am a good person,
But you looking at the Economic Development Council, we're funded by people in the community. It's voluntary. It's not a tax. It's not, if you don't like what we're doing, you probably haven't written a check or been involved. But here's what we do: everyone that writes a check to our group, I have a quarterly breakfast. We don't sell tickets to it. And I tell them, this is our financials, this is our projects we're working on, and I answer any questions. I'm about accountability and transparency.
Yeah, that's good. That's interesting. I'm sure people enjoy attending that.
And it's full. It's packed every time.
Well, the West Loop, people sometimes complain like, hey, they don't ever do anything for the West Loop or this or that. You kind of hear that, right? Have you ever heard that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Or North Tyler.
Oh, I was about to say, and then I was going to go in North Tyler, but, you cannot just snap your fingers and say economic development, go there, can you?
No.
People have to want to go there, and if it takes incentives, those have to be in addition.
You got to show them they can make money there. They're driven by profitability. Gordon Gekko said greed is good. Scott Martinez said profit is good. Profit is a good thing. And you want companies here that make money. That means they're hiring people, keeping people employed, and growing.
Well, like Brookshire's, that's probably a big move to get out there on that West Loop, at least for the, development of the rest of that. Is it?
A grocery store is an apex tenant for a retail development because they generate traffic that gets all of those other retailers over there. If you're a shopping center developer, you want a grocery store because that's just solid traffic generation. But for Brookshire's, it was a big move, but one of my frustrations here is, over the past 5 years, I've gotten to know those guys at Brookshire's, from a lot of people that work there. From Brad. Brad, called me the Sunday before the Monday he retired. We had a conversation. But they're good people, and they give back a lot. And, it irritates me when people say, oh, well, they're doing this or doing that. That company does so much in this community. People don't even know all the things they do.
Yeah, no, I know that to be true. And I've known Brad a long time. He and I used to play tennis together. He's a very level-headed, thoughtful person.
Who cares about the community. You know, that wildlife museum they did. I mean, that's just something that's kind of a passion.
They had to move it after the ammonium thing.
Yeah, kind of a passion project of his. I mean, he's passionate about getting a sports museum here.
Really?
You know, we've been working on that. You know, just some of those things they do that are just community-focused things because they were born here, the company was born here, they've grown here.
You know, I've noticed they're finally, you know, maybe reluctantly moving the gates to Capitol Drive.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that?
Yeah.
I mean, it is a good fit. I know it costs them money. I know, you know, I don't think TxDOT would give them a light or whatever it was, right? But it's probably going to be better for those trucks. It was tough getting out.
Yeah, it was a problem. It was a problem for the employees coming out on Old Jacksonville.
Yeah.
You know, that will, I think, help with a lot of things.
That's going to streamline things. And, you know, TxDOT, of course, they've taken part of my property here for the old Jacksonville expansion,
mm-hmm.
which I'm moving.
You sell to Michael Lair?
No, I'm going to hold out against him. I'm selling to Chama. Chama's already got first right of refusal over here. He's got it on everything else. But you know, I guess state funding, they've dropped back the time for this project, right?
And a lot of that's related to the cost of getting right of way.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty reasonable because I was like, yeah, and then they negotiated settling. I settled, and then they ran out of money. And then I'm sure some people are thinking they can hit the lottery. But if you know anything about the eminent domain law, which I do, mm-hmm. you can't hit the lottery. There are certain fair market value and Texas case law that makes it easy for them just to go in there with an evaluation appraiser, and the judge simply rules, okay, that's what you're getting, and it's probably what they've already been offered.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll also bring up another good partner we have that's kind of out of the box, NetRMA.
Oh, yeah.
NetRMA does more than toll roads. You know,
I didn't really know that, but I know them to be Loop 49.
Yeah. Glenn Green and Gary Hallbrooks, I mean, they've been good partners. I'll give you an example. Where the new County Road 3344 that was built through our industrial park comes out of the new Avery Express facility, there's going to be a signal there. And that wouldn't have happened without NetRMA basically helping pay for the engineering there.
Yeah. I mean, you know so much about little projects that are dots that probably are getting connected now that will make more sense later on.
That's what we do is connect dots and try to bring people together. You know, I tell people we want to be a catalyst, a convener, and a connector. That's kind of the 3 C's we try to follow.
What about the Loop 49, from 110?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard rumblings about trying to carry that thing on around.
They're working on it. It's probably 2032, realistically, before anything really happens.
Yeah, is that because of money?
It's, just going through the process.
Right away?
It's the route, trying to settle on the right route. There's a whole process.
Politics.
There's all the above.
East Texas people, they're great.
All the above.
They're horrible when it comes to their land.
Well,
right,
I think Texas in general, they strong property rights state.
Now, it looks like you guys have at least 5 tools that I've kind of researched. The city of Tyler's has its own initiatives and incentives that they can try to help.
Yeah.
Right.
And everything's case by case. There's no cookie cutter.
Right. You can't just look, apply, and expect to get something.
I mean, there's certain guidelines that we follow. But Chad, I want to bring up something else that the EDC does that perhaps you're not aware of. Every year we take a group to a different community. We do an inner city trip to learn best practices, and we go to aspirational communities.
How does that help you? Does that help you stay focused on thinking about the greater community?
Yeah. So think about we did our strategic plan almost 5 years ago. One of the things that they recommended was us visit with our leadership aspirational communities.
People that aspirational meaning they had hopes and dreams to have a better place?
No, communities that have done great things that we can emulate.
Oh, okay. You want to aspire to be them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So year one, I put this thing together. It's like, because people are going on their own dime, taking time out of their day, travel, hotel, everything. They pay for it. The EDC doesn't pay for it. All we do is plan it and get a hotel block.
Yeah, Carlene Dark just told me about this earlier today. She said she was going.
Yeah, so she's been, I think, every year. So year one, not knowing if I'd get any interest, we take over 40 people to Chattanooga. And what they've done to their downtown and that riverfront is just unreal. And it really sparked a lot of dialogue among the people that went and helped strengthen some relationships. Last year, I had 42 people go on that. Last year, I was like, okay, let's try this again, see if we get anybody to go this year. We had over 60.
So I mean, there's
went to Huntsville, Alabama.
There's a bunch of interest in this for some reason, right?
Yeah, everyone from city council to university presidents to community business people. Southside Banks, the presenting sponsor for the second year. But I mean, it's a big cross section of developers, contractors, and the thing about it is people get to know people on a different level when they travel with them.
Yeah, that's true.
And then
it's like anything.
And then next month we're going to Greenville, South Carolina.
I mean, what is it? Is there something in particular you hope for Tyler that some of these trips may spark or cause people to be engaged in?
See something, a lot of these communities didn't think they could do it. They had a lot of naysayers and they did it. Like Chattanooga was one of the most polluted communities in the country in 1970, and they just intentionally turned everything around. The first community in North America to have gig computing and gig Wi-Fi and all that stuff. Huntsville has leveraged the federal government, but they've done some things beyond that. We toured a Polaris factory there that makes the side-by-sides and, employs like 3,000 people. And a lot of the people that went had never been in a modern manufacturing facility.
They don't know how automated it already is.
Automated, how, high. And then we'll see BMW in South Carolina. So a lot of things happen on those trips and sparks ideas and gets people to thinking of what's possible rather than this is Tyler, this is the way things are. And it gets them to think kind of outside the box.
I mean, I was struck when I talked to Don Warren. He seemed to refuse to hear no and say, well, there's some kind of way that we can do some of this stuff, and just seemed to, be almost stubborn to the point where it has happened. Am I seeing that and reading that right?
Don's been a phenomenal mayor. I can say without hesitation, a lot of the things downtown, Valencia Hotel would not be happening without Don Warren. And just the other things that he's invested his energy in, with whether it's parks or other things, and he gets plumb giddy, talking about the community. And it's great to have a mayor that's not going through the motions, that's genuinely enthusiastic about the community he leads.
Well, I know Don feels that way because every year, the Juneteenth parade, we both ride in. He rides in as the mayor. Me, I ride in as I don't really know what. Just a local lawyer, a friend. I'm hoping eventually they'll make me the master of ceremonies and I'll get to ride in the convertible. But all joking aside, Don, he really cares. It's not even a burden for him to go to things. He likes to go to stuff and talk to people. And I think he's been great. He's kind of pushed us to this point now. The question will be, like you said earlier, different administrations, different relationships to the, development, right? I mean, what do you think we're looking at with this next group trying to win the mayorship?
I think it's a good group of candidates. I mean, I don't think there's anyone, I'm confident there's no one that's running that I can't work with.
Because we don't know what's going to happen with a runoff and who are the two left standing, and then, look, what do you have there?
I know them all. I know some better than others, but all of them, I'm confident I can work with. And I think they'll be supportive of economic development.
Because is it 3 out of 4 have city council experience? Is that right?
Right.
I mean, Shirley, James, Stewart.
Yeah.
John Nix, I think he ran against Don Warren one time.
He was on council at one time.
He was? Okay.
Yeah.
So, at least we've got people that are familiar with the machinery of the way the government runs.
And we've had consistency with the city manager here.
Yeah, I mean,
Ed's been here 11 years.
I didn't realize that. Ed Broussard?
Yeah.
I didn't realize, I hate to say this, but I'm going to because this is unfiltered. When I read that book, Smith County Justice, I didn't realize how much power a city manager had in connection with the police chief, the city council. You know what I'm saying? You didn't realize that an unelected person was so important if they were really good.
And it's like that throughout the state of Texas. City managers, and depending on their charter, they can wield good power. I will say this about our city manager here. I've known him 20 years, high integrity, high intelligence.
Yeah, and I'm no way suggesting that he's part of an old crowd. I'm just saying.
I think having that consistency as city manager for 11 years, which is, again, you don't see city managers serving one community for that long. There's a steadiness there.
Yeah, and I think that's important.
And we have good people in public safety. Our police and fire chiefs.
Oh, yeah. Good. Yeah, no, that's been, we have a lot of good people in all of the service organizations, fire, sheriff's department. I mean, we're really fortunate, and.
But Chad, think about this. In 2024, Smith County added one new job in the private sector every 3 hours. Last year, we added 3 jobs every day in the private sector. It was down, but we still outperformed the state and the country as far as our job growth in the private sector. And we're doing that not because we've got the biggest economic development budget. It's not, you got to fund economic development of this group. You get creative on how you can do things. Our secret sauce is getting people to work together. Those collaborations that made that interstate commerce park possible. That makes this new business park, being able to collaborate with the city and them help with, sewer. Because unless you can flush, you're not getting a project. You got to turn on a faucet or flush.
Do you ever present, what we just talked about, these things that you got done, sewer, water, road, to get somebody there to these other companies that you're asking to come in to say, look, we work well together with the city and the county, and you're more likely to get something done here. Do you use that as
Absolutely. That video brochure I gave you has a time lapse of when we started the Interstate Commerce Park and when Yellowwood was operational. It's like less than 18 months and they built the world's largest wood treatment facility. They can treat 6 million board feet a week out of that facility. I can show you a time lapse of Amazon. They went from ground to an operational 140,000 square foot distribution center in 10 months. So I tell people we move at the speed of business. I can show you that with valid things and that would happen without people working together. And then it's easy for me to talk about, we needed a road. We found a way to do it. We needed, I can just give proof point after proof point. And my window here is short. I've been here just over 5 years. I don't have this long runway. I mean, we've done this in this amount of time.
Well, also, when businesses borrow money for projects, interest is building, is owed, right? I mean, the longer it takes a project that they've borrowed for to get going or get that adds cost to the project, doesn't it?
Our little group adds, our little 501c3, we have debt service we have to pay every month on our property. I think I've got one good land sale, and it goes away. But there's risk involved. Not a lot different than what a private developer would go through. They'd have to borrow money. They'd have to figure out the infrastructure. They'd have to do a lot of the things that we have to do to make our projects work. And that's what sets us apart as an economic development organization than most of our peer groups in the state of Texas, is that we've got to be a whole hell of a lot more entrepreneurial to make the thing cash flow.
Because you don't have backing from city and county money.
No, I don't have mailbox money.
What about this? Your membership group that supports you, would you say that that's a steady increase? It's been flat. I mean, do you gauge your support in any way from the members? Yeah,
when I got here, we had 118 members. Now we've got over 160.
All right, so it's steadily up. And a lot of people, even like myself, know what the council is, has no idea you could join and support, just really, didn't know if that was just kind of, some insider elites were gathering up for a breakfast once a quarter.
Well, yeah, we do. No, no, there's no such thing as backroom deals. Anything that involves public dollars, happens in a public setting. It gets voted on by a public body. There's no backroom.
Grassroots will be after you for not having an open session or something if you don't want to.
Well, I mean, I'm not the public sector, so
I know.
I made an endorsement this election cycle, the first time in 25 years.
Really?
I just don't do that.
Right. I mean, it's because it's not beneficial to you usually.
No. But if I know someone's going to be against economic development and some of the tools in the toolbox, and we already, from a funding perspective and other things, we've got to do things differently, I felt incumbent to get out there and say, look, I support this person and this is why.
Well, I mean, that's not political. That's simply just, survival, right? I mean,
that's survival, but also just communicating why I'm supporting someone and how it impacts other people.
Do we know? I mean, since you made an endorsement, it's not a secret.
No, it's not a secret. I endorsed Austin Lewis.
Okay. For what position?
For commissioner.
People listening. This would be a county commissioner, right?
County commissioner. He won.
There's 4 spots and a county judge.
Yeah.
And so I don't know who he was running against.
Hey, look, and that's not anything personal.
Right.
She's a nice person. I just don't agree with her politically.
All right. And
that's fine.
Luce was a stronger advocate for growth in Smith County and Tyler.
He was. And he is.
Okay. And so he's going to add to a court that's already, pretty pro-business and, with Scott Herod.
Yeah, Scott Herrod's great.
And whoever.
Ralph Caraway's outstanding.
Also, Judge Franklin.
Judge Franklin's great. John Moore's been a good commissioner.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we've got look, for business-friendly policies, practice, looks like we've got a good council.
We do.
And a good commissioner's court.
Petra Hawkins is great. I mean, I can just go down.
Petra's my rep.
Petra is a force of nature.
My councilwoman.
I love Petra.
Chandra Marsh.
I like her too.
You know Chandra? Y'all discounted land. Y'all kind of advertised this as one of the tools in the toolbox. How could y'all discount land?
Not very well these days, not with debt.
Right. I mean, that's
no. We're going to be less. Look, we'll make it work.
That's land that you own.
If I've got a company that wants to come here with a lot of jobs with very good salaries, we'll make it work.
You'll do anything you can do to get the land bought by somebody else.
Absolutely.
Right.
Or we'll figure out a way to make it cash flow on our end because, we are, we have to be an industrial developer, but at the same time, we've got to focus on our mission. We can't stray from our mission and just be driven by margins. We've got a double bottom line. Make no mistake about it. When I look at things, is it meeting our mission of, driving capital investment to Smith County, Texas? Is it going to drive people getting jobs in Smith County, Texas? But also, what's the fiscal impact to our organization?
Right.
And I've got to balance those.
But you don't really have to make a profit per se, do you?
No, but it's nice when I've got debt to pay.
Right. I mean, and I'm not suggesting that you run a bare bones operation, but you're not incentivized.
We're not driven by
You're not incentivized to put yourself and your organization first and the city and the county's initiative secondarily, right?
I mean, my mission is jobs and capital investment, but I have to be cognizant of the fiscal impact of the organization to keep the lights on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because that's your job as a CEO. I mean, if you weren't paying all the bills or making bad moves, you probably still wouldn't be in the job 6 years later.
No. I mean, you've got to balance it. Here's different just because, you've got debt, you've got things, but, you get one deal and the debt goes away. You've got all this land free and clear. So there's a risk aspect you take on the front end, no different than a business or an entrepreneur. And I think, Chad, that makes us better.
Yeah.
That makes us more creative in how we approach things. That makes us think outside the box to put deals together. It makes us better.
You've got a lot of land left in this 700 plus acres.
I'll be free and clear with one sale.
Right. One more.
Yeah.
One more business that also brings jobs and pays taxes.
It's not just a real estate transaction. It's not just transactional, but it's also, you want someone that's going to put money on the tax rolls and hire neighbors.
Now, I also see this Freeport exemptions listed as a tool, and I don't quite understand that.
It's inventories. So you think about a company that has a lot of inventory, they pay taxes on it.
Which I always thought was kind of hard, like a car dealership.
Yeah. So the Freeport exemption, if they move it out of the state of Texas within 6 months, it's not subject to the.
So I would hire somebody to drive all the cars outside of Texas and then bring them back.
Well, you wouldn't want to, certain states you wouldn't want to go to with your cars. They may not make it back.
But you know what I'm saying?
But
when you don't sell a piece of inventory and it sits there and you have to pay tax on it while it sits there, that's just kind of like, right?
We also set up a foreign trade zone.
Really?
We've got foreign trade zone 299 we set up.
Where is that?
It's most of Smith County. Yeah.
Really? It's a legal entity created for certain tax benefits for companies here?
So if you're bringing in foreign goods, you can put it in basically a bonded warehouse, and it doesn't enter the commerce of the United States of America until you take it out for tax reasons. And you can do duty deferrals and do some other things with it.
Bonded warehouse being like on Palace Street, that big warehouse?
You can do, I don't know if that's bonded.
I don't either. I just know it's a huge warehouse.
But this would be, I think John Souls owns that one. But yes, but it would be something where, you have a designated area in your warehouse that's bonded.
Like Brookshire's?
Brookshire's wouldn't do it because they don't have a lot of foreign stuff.
Like some caviar coming in?
But if you're making, like in Austin, we used it for like Seiko. Seiko would bring in watches and put it in the foreign trade zone from Japan, and then it wasn't taxed until it left. So they could stock inventory in there for years if they needed to.
Until they wanted to send it out to a watch store or whatever.
Yeah.
What about revolving loan fund?
We've got 2 revolving loan funds that basically for companies that aren't bankable or their project isn't bankable.
What do you mean?
We'll partner with a bank and we'll provide some of the capital for it, and then the bank will take some of the rest. So we've used that we got a special allocation of money. This all comes from the federal government for us to administer. So we get a pot of money that we can loan out.
And you say not bankable. What do you mean not bankable?
Like they may have an issue they may not have enough assets or something. They may not.
To get a loan.
Bank they'll deny their loan. Then they can come to us and we may be able to put capital into it through our revolving loan fund program to make the deal work. Cool. I mean, we partnered with Ultra Credit Union on one recently. We partnered with other banks on it. I'll give you an example.
When you partner, the ones you partner with, that bank or lending institution gets the loan.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of the incentive for them.
Yeah, and then we'll put capital into it to kind of make it work.
So that they don't have as much risk.
Absolutely. And they still take first position. So I'll give you an example. After COVID, some companies took a real impact.
Yes.
And the federal government gave us another tranche of money to set up basically a COVID-related resiliency loan fund. And we set that up, and we did one to a local company, and that was really hurt with COVID. Chuck's Travel.
Chuck's Travel, yeah,
great guy. Chuck was a great guy.
Nobody was taking any travel on the
no
buses.
one was taking any travel, so we were able to get him a loan, help him out, he got back up. But of course, he's a great guy. Good example. And that was able to help him.
Because these are small business revolving loans?
I think it was like a $50,000 loan.
Yeah, because like big companies, they're not coming for this, right?
No.
It might strike people as strange, not understanding how things work, that the federal government would give a nonprofit, Tyler Economic Development Council, any money. How does that work?
With a lot of strings.
I mean, right? You have to jump through hoops. You have to.
Yeah, this thing's been around. Tom Mullins and set it up. We're probably more than 20 years into it now. Maybe 30.
But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's that's helpful to local businesses to survive, this revolving loan fund. And it's funny or different that it originates with government money given to the Economic Development Council.
Yeah. And then, it's a revolving loan fund. So we loan it out, get it back, and just keep it going.
What do you do? Just get your principal back with some interest?
Yeah, we get interest on it.
So, and then you kind of use that to build up the revolving loan fund over time?
It gets replenished as people pay it back.
With the interest?
With the interest.
So, I mean, I'm assuming it's becoming more and more.
Yeah.
People that have heard this that say, I'm a small business or might be in trouble in the future, or would they apply?
Yeah, just come see us.
And just say, hey, look, I need...
we've got a process we go through, and been doing this for... Oh gosh, Chad, it must probably 25 plus years.
The strings attached for the revolving loan fund, does it in any way relate to or attach to some economic activity happening outside the county or state?
We just do Smith County, but it has nothing to do.
Okay.
I mean, we've nothing to do with anything going outside the state.
Yeah, your revolving loan fund isn't kind of limited to ensure that they do business outside. It's just for businesses
Absolutely.
inside.
We changed the regulations on that since I've been here.
Because I remember some of these restrictions involved a certain amount of work or services or goods being
We
outside.
don't do that anymore.
Okay. That has been eliminated.
No. And economic development's evolved.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's what you've told us.
It's evolved. And we get involved with things now we probably haven't gotten involved with historically.
Think about this. You've told us here today, not only have tax abatements evolved on what you could use them for, right? The half-cent sales tax, A to B, has evolved on what it could be put towards, and the limitations on outside, it sounds like have changed.
But, the city, and the half-cent sales tax, they've got their own board that does that, and that group, they've done a lot of good things.
Yeah, because it looked like the City of Tyler and the half-cent sales tax board are the ones that kind of decide on the projects.
And they've got a plan, and they've got a hierarchy of, half-cent sales tax projects that they're going to do. But it's been, the half-cent sales tax, most communities funds the economic development program, and it works for those communities. Here, it's driven by the private sector. And I think it really works really well here. We've got to do things differently, but it works well here.
Your budget's smaller.
Yeah.
But do you think the expertise from the private sector makes your organization more beneficial?
We've got a very engaged private sector. I'll give you an example. Our finance committee, our auditor says he's intimidated by our finance committee.
Because these are people that actually know how to make a profit.
Well, you've got Lee Gibson, CPA, just retired as head of Southside Bank. He's the treasurer. You think he doesn't know anything about finance?
I guess he can keep up with the money.
Yeah. You've got Thomas Newhoff, who runs the CFO for the Hurd family office.
All right.
You've got Ray McKinney, the president of Genecope Group, also a CPA. I mean, I can just go. I think you've got
that's what I'm saying.
Kevin Cashin and they're all engaged, asking questions.
What they would say in the business world is that's talent.
Yes.
Right. Compared to sometimes in the government sector, you don't have this kind of talent, assimilated for these projects.
And let's look at our real estate committee. Taylor Burns, he knows a little bit about real estate. He was our real estate chair for 30 years. Mark Watley's still on there. Herb Bowie still shows up. He's on there.
He's just bored. Herb's bored.
Herb is awesome. I love Herb. You've got Bob Garrett with the Fair Foundation.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you've got Sam Scarborough. I mean, I just go down a list.
Sam's kind of the young gun.
Yeah.
I see him at Stanley's. He likes Stanley's.
Yeah. So I can just go down a list of all these people that are actively involved in real estate that do deals, that are on there, that are engaged. And so Ray Boudreaux, who's a civil engineer with Brandon Corporation, all these folks, we can get in there and talk about real estate. I've got a civil engineer in there. I've got all these real estate folks.
But it's not the way Tyler's running their economic development program. Just probably the best synthesis between the talent in the city that's also motivated by the people that make money and work on the projects when they happen.
Yeah. And everyone wants the community to prosper.
And it goes back to what I said.
Yeah.
Everybody gets excited. I don't know anything about Yellowwood, but I'm excited when somebody tells me, hey, they're building a, $1 million facility out there. I'm like, that's good.
Let me tell you, the owner of that is a guy named Jimmy Rain.
Jimmy Rain.
He's Alabama's only billionaire. So he used to have these commercials, the Yellow Fella.
Yeah.
A big Auburn University booster, but they came here, they got no incentives and, just engaged in the community. It's probably been one of the better companies I've worked with. Tyler Pipe. Let's talk about Tyler Pipe.
McWayne Industries.
McWayne.
Also from Mississippi or Alabama.
Alabama,
right?
Birmingham.
Yeah.
But, when I got here, they had 280 employees. We worked with them. They got a new foundry here. They've got over 540 people, and their safety record now is really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, that New York Times was whooping them up pretty good back in the old days.
But it's a different.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah, I mean,
Dante's Inferno, all that stuff.
Yeah, whatever. But, there used to be like Western Foundry. It shut down way back when I was a little kid. That there was another foundry. I don't know if you...
I didn't.
Yeah, there was another foundry other than Tyler Pipe, and it was right there on the North Loop. Where you go past like Nejum Industrial Park in there, out there on the East Loop,
mm-hmm.
and then to cut over to get to the other side, it was right in there. Hey, you're enjoying this, aren't you?
I am. I am enjoying it.
We're almost through, Scott.
I'm enjoying it. I've got as much time as you need.
We have, this show is going to be very interesting because I know so many people that when your name is mentioned, people think of excitement, progress, like something's going to happen. And, when you're talking about government and, it's, there's not always a lot of people, getting things going. What are your immediate plans for us in economic development that you can reveal?
Yeah, I think we've done very well over the past several years with healthcare. Obviously, you've got great healthcare systems here.
Shout out to Kevin Eltoff.
Big shout out
once
to Kevin
again.
Eltoff. Eltoff has been
half-cent sales tax, which we've talked about.
One of the most transformational figures in the history of Tyler, Texas.
Board of Regents, medical school.
Yeah, that would have happened without Kevin.
We're going to have to call Kevin the gift that keeps on giving.
He does. I just, we need something to just make sure Kevin keeps going and keep staying involved in everything. But Kevin's just been a blessing to this community. And, but beyond that, just healthcare. We're strong in healthcare. We've done some good blue collar manufacturing jobs in the past several years. But what's next? Yes, what's next?
What is next?
I think we've got to do a better job of the opportunities leveraging UT Tyler more and Tyler Junior College more. We do very well with healthcare when it relates to those institutions.
You're talking about the nursing college?
Yeah, healthcare, the medical school, all those things. When people think of UT Tyler now, they automatically migrate to the thought, let's go to medical school, healthcare. Same thing with, the Rogers School of Nursing, everything with TGC.
Right, the nursing.
But think about what else is there.
Engineering.
You've got you got 1,000 engineering students here. You've got all these things happening with the Souls College of Business.
Business College.
How do we leverage those things?
Don't forget the pre-law program, Scott.
A friend of mine, Carol Palumbo, with, who's she with now? Baker Botts in Austin. I did a project with her way back. She put money into that, which I thought was fun.
Well, would you say that, over your years of work and including the success here, you've made relationships with people where they might give you a tip or talk to you about a potential company that is looking for a place to go? Is that a networking thing that happens in your business?
It is, and it's nationally. We've done, I think some of the people I've brought to speak at these breakfasts have never been to Tyler, Texas. I had a guy named Mike Grella who stood up the economic development department for Jeff Bezos at Amazon. He also stood up Amazon Web Services. He was in Tyler, Texas a few months ago, looking at Tyler, speaking to my investors at a breakfast. Last February, I had a lady from Greenville, South Carolina, a lady named Dee Dee Caldwell. Bloomberg does a big feature on her, called her the factory whisperer for all the factories she's put around the world. She did Emirates Aluminum up in Tulsa, but she came to Tyler, spent a couple of days with us, spoke to our group. So those friends I've had nationally that I've been blessed to build relationships with, I get them to Tyler. The head of economic incentives for JLL, he's come to Tyler to speak at the breakfast. The head of Ben Swanger, real estate, comes to Tyler to speak.
The factory woman that you mentioned, does that give me a view into the window of your mind about who you're tapping, what you're looking at in trying to figure out how to best prepare our area to reel one of those in?
Yeah, you look at, data centers is where the big capital spend are, of course, become a political hot button.
Right.
With electricity and water and some of the noise and some of the other things people see around it. I think, we've got an opportunity to get some, but it'll be off-grid stuff more than likely. But I think, you look at sectors that are growing where we may not be able to be a good fit, like a semiconductor plant. I don't have 1,000 acres I can put together for something like that. But let's look at the supply chain. What goes into making those? Is there something in that supply chain that I can leverage here?
What, that you already have here that already gets made here?
Or I have the real estate that would fit a manufacturer of a component that goes into that. Same thing with data centers.
Real estate sounds like, I've heard you say that from the beginning of this show till now, that's the thing that we need help with as a economic development council. Yeah. More real estate to offer.
When I got here, I realized we didn't have real estate that worked. So I hired a group to come in and look agnostically at Smith County and find me real estate that aligned with with economic development projects.
Right, with no outside influence about the property.
I've got a list of 50 sites in Smith County
that
I've identified as not kind of keep up with.
Right. And so if somebody calls and wants to come here, you already have done the work to be ready to present those to them.
When you're dealing with business and prospects and getting a new manufacturing or logistics facility up, it's three things. It's speed, risk, and cost.
Yeah, how fast can we do it, right?
Yeah. What's the risk? Is there environmental stuff? Can I get a workforce to make me profitable here?
They're smart enough, or they're technological, they can do the job.
And then the cost. What's it going to cost me to build a facility? What's the long-term operating cost? What's the long-term tax exposure? What's the long-term labor cost? All those things are evaluated.
So the speed. The TEDC is good because they seem to facilitate speed in these projects, right?
Yeah, because we've done the due diligence on the property. We've got phase ones. We've got geotechnical, all those things.
The risk, including the workforce, seems like that the colleges, TJC, and the, kind of the training programs help reduce risk of the workers that they're going to have available for them.
They do, and we do a lot of work up front. Is there environmental risk? We bought property that was part of Camp Fannin.
And so there's something there that has to be remediated?
Well, everything's been remediated. It's probably, from my perspective, it's probably the cleanest property in Smith County because of all the work that the Corps of Engineers did, post Camp Fannin.
So what's the environmental issue then?
Well, it's perception.
They're like,
are we going to hit a bomb that blows up? And no.
Oh, that.
They
didn't even really have bombs.
But all of that, I've got stacks of studies, and Corps of Engineers actually been good partners with us in alleviating any concerns that may arise.
But you can carry insurance during the process, the construction.
But we don't even get to that point because we address that up front.
What about Ray Perryman? Is he a part of actually your annual thing? Is that what that is?
No, I do a different one.
Because I always see Ray Perryman.
Ray does one in January, and Ray's, full disclosure, Ray's been a good friend for a lot of years. But we do our economic development annual meeting in October.
And you did it this past October 23rd or something like that?
Something like that. We had Cliff Ellis, the former Auburn basketball coach who I met through Jimmy Rain. He was a speaker. And
did he know anything about economic development?
He knew a lot about leadership and motivating people.
Okay, so that's the angle that you had there. It wasn't a...
Yeah, and I got to know him through Yellowwood and Jimmy Rain and that group. And then the foundation event that Jimmy did last May. And then we created an award this year. First time we've ever given an award, and it's going to be an annual award, the Herb Bowie Visionary Award. Because Herb started doing economic development and getting involved in our economic development program in the 1940s. Before he went to Korea and came back.
He's been active in nonprofits and philanthropy and giving money to people for as long as I can remember.
Herb was one of those folks that still comes to meetings. At real estate committee meetings, he's going to ask questions. He's going to be, he's most often the sharpest person in the room.
Well,
and just a true blessing to this community.
Well, let's talk about, 2030. Is 2030, because it's a new decade, end of the decade. Are there any goals set for 2030 for you in the Economic Development Council, or is it longer range than that?
Well, I want to see us, with the whole change in how the world operates with AI. What does that look like? What does automation look like? What's the future of the American worker look like?
Right. Those are unknowns right now.
It's unknown. There's still certain things that you have to do with your hands that you can't do on AI. That you plumbing, mechanics,
HVAC,
like building houses, even though they may do it with 3D printing at some point, which they're already doing some places.
That'd be wild, wouldn't it?
So, what does that look like? You've got to have that future cast to where you're thinking about what does that look like? What impact does that have on the community? You can go back 3 years. We were talking about doing data centers here, and it was not a political hot button. We were looking at the large capital investment, few employees that doesn't take a lot of public services to support. And we were gangbusters all in. And now you look at it about politically, this may get a lot of blowback if we were to announce something like that if it's not done the right way.
Right. Well,
people still have PTSD over Winter Storm Uri.
Winter Storm, which one?
Yeah, that one. That one, but when you start talking about the electric grid and things, that could.
Oh, yeah, you're talking about the electric grid. The ice Mageddon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, you have to, I don't know as much as you know about it. Of course, AI sounds good, profitable, and all that stuff at first. And then you hear the secondary stuff is all the electricity it uses, all the water it uses. And then people say, not my water, not my land.
And those things have changed. The data centers are much more efficient with electricity and water. There's still a lot of electricity, but less water. But it's interesting. The same folks that are big property rights, they get really upset about what other people do on their property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's that about. I guess they're afraid. Again, fear is a big motivator in society, right? They're afraid they're coming our way. What do you think about, Bill Gates and some of these other people that are always on the cutting edge of what's coming, or kind of going into nuclear? Do you think they'll ever harness a mini nuclear technology?
Yes.
I'm on to something, aren't I?
Yes.
All right. Because it looks like that is the direction that all the problems can be solved in that direction.
You'll see a lot more deployment of nuclear, I think. But, one of the things that's interesting is we have so much natural gas here, and you can burn natural gas relatively clean.
Right.
And we've got this abundance of it. And, I think we don't harness that enough.
Well, do you think that there's always cycles?
Yeah.
We went through this terrible cycle where everybody believed that we would have enough electricity for there to instantly have everybody drive an electric car and wind and solar taking care of everything. And we know that in a beautiful world, if that could happen, great. But we can't. We can't survive with that.
It's not going to happen. And what's charging your Tesla?
Right. I mean, people don't even stop to think about what you just said, and that's unfortunate because somehow then it becomes a political issue. I'm a bad person. They're a good person because they want sustainable energy, and the truth is not even talked about.
Yeah, and you're seeing pivots. I mean, Ford Motor Company's done a complete
away from electric.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the data centers and the national security interests with China and artificial intelligence, I think, is what this will push this nuclear so that we can get over the democracy and the political hurdles that we have in this country that China doesn't have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and the regulations.
And the regulations, right. The Chinese government or Russia can decide, hey, we're just going to do this. There's no opposition.
Yeah.
There's no regulatory waiting period.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, hopefully the government cares more about us than they care about theirs.
Absolutely.
Right? Anything you hope about the elected officials that come forward going forward as it relates to the TEDC?
I just hope they continue to be collaborative because everything that we've done in this community has been done through people working together. It hadn't happened because of one entity.
Do you think that the fact that the mayor and the city council races are nonpartisan has benefited this community?
Absolutely.
And continues to do so?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it just seems like the camaraderie that I've seen with all council members and Don Warren, and even in large extent with the commissioner's court, a little, not as much, right? I mean, because they're running on a political thing, right?
The commissioner's court is much different than city council.
Right.
And it's a totally different constituency. The rural constituency is much different than one within the city. It's just a different mindset.
And they don't have any money.
They don't have as much money.
Right. The county's always complaining like, hey, we've got no funding.
But it's county government here actually is really, from my perspective, ran well despite what some people say.
No, I mean,
I interact with Frank Davis with Road and Bridge all the time. We've worked on projects together. He's a professional and he's been good to work with. I mean,
there's a lot of territory and things that the county does without a whole lot of money.
They do. And I think about what people talk about road bonds and how much road can be built with this and audits and all this stuff. which is really there's so many guardrails around public dollars. When things go off the rails with public dollars, people go to jail because there's so much that happens with that. When I went to Louisiana, I had friends tell me, half the state's underwater and the other half's under indictment. And when I was there, we had 3 Caddo commissioners get federal charges in different years for different things. So if you do something wrong with public funds, chances are you're going to go to jail. There's that many safeguards when you deal with public funds. And I see all this stuff going back and forth about audits with the road and, they were going to do this with the bonds. There was nothing in that bond language that specified there was a list of potential roads, but there was nothing that said this is the absolute list that the roads are going to be done. Well, guess what's happened since those bonds were passed? You've seen
changes.
You've seen all these changes. You've seen inflation. You've seen,
right,
more public projects. You look at all the tech stock projects and, you've got only a certain number of contractors. So it's the whole supply and demand. You've got this many contractors with this many projects available. That's going to drive up pricing. But the whole notion that, and I'll just be quite blunt, that they're going to want to spend potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars to audit the road and bridge department. I think how many miles of road could be built with that? It's just total.
I don't understand it either. That, the inclination for some is to immediately be suspicious and accuse instead of looking at people that are trying to work to help the community. I mean, it's like, where's the bad guy? Why are you looking for one?
I'm all about accountability and efficiency and all those things, and I think, we've got that with what I see with our county government and our city government. You look at the tax rate and you look at the delivery of services, it's happening here. And just, it's kind of frustrating to see that distraction.
But luckily for you, you really don't have interaction with groups or people that primarily, their foundation is criticism of the government instead of trying to make it better.
That's the great thing about being private is, again, that's just.
And that's why talent accumulates in the private sector instead of the public sector, and nobody wants to run for office anymore, is because this is what they have to deal with.
You have to perform. If you're set up like us, if you're not having success and people can't see that you're doing the right things and things that are moving the needle, they don't have to write those checks every year.
Well, I'm going to join. And that sounds funny. A plaintiff lawyer, personal injury lawyer, one would not think that I would want to join the Tyler Economic Development Council, but I urge others to join as well, because you've heard here today what the organization does, what its value is, and how it helps everything around whatever your practice is, whatever your business is. Scott Martinez, very impressive interview. Thank you for being here today and being on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity. Don't get hurt twice. Come to Tyler.
My time right now.